Today on the Bandrew Says podcast, we're going to talk about YouTube auto-playing videos on the homepage. We're going to talk about Apple developing music artists. We're going to talk about Australia hating privacy and a whole lot more, so go ahead and stick around. Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome back to episode 140 Heaven of the BSP. My name is Bandrew. This is What I Says. Like always, down below there are timestamps of everything that I talk about so you can skip around. But if you got the time, I would appreciate you if you listen to the entire episode. Lastly, if you do want a different version of the podcast, either audio or video, you can find that at bandrewsays.com. Let's jump right into the news. And the first thing is the YouTube homepage is going to begin auto-playing videos. That's right, on your homepage on both iOS and Android devices, when you're scrolling through that homepage on the YouTube app, those videos will autoplay. Now, those videos will not be as intrusive as it sounds. They will automatically be muted and captions will be enabled. But I saw this last week. I don't see it anymore, so I don't know what happened with it. But I saw it last week, and I did not like it at all. The reason I did not like it is I listen to podcasts all day, every day, even when I'm scrolling through YouTube looking for something to watch. And even though the audio was muted in these videos, it would automatically stop my podcast from playing in my ears. Maybe that's just an initial bug. Maybe that's a glitch, something that will be fixed. But at this time, I cannot recommend it. I think it's terrible, and it was very, very obnoxious and annoying for me. But now let's go ahead and talk about how this could potentially affect you as a content creator. And the first thing I want to focus on is thumbnails. There are a lot of creators that spend a significant amount of time and sometimes a significant amount of money on generating thumbnails because that is the very first impression that somebody has of your content. Now, on the homepage, they are going to be essentially removing the thumbnail from people's view. They're going to be auto-playing that video. With that being said, they are not completely removing the thumbnail from the homepage. They will have the thumbnail still show up for a couple of seconds. So what can you do with that information? I think if you are somebody who has a lot of text and tries to convey a lot of information in your thumbnail, you should probably make some adjustments to your approach. Make your thumbnails easily consumable and make it so all the information that you want to get across is easily conveyed in 1 to 2 seconds. Don't have a paragraph of text, have a very simple image, have very big block lettering, make it very easy to see, make it bright, make it whatever. Do whatever you want to do, but make it easily consumable in 1 to 2 seconds. You should not just abandon thumbnails, though, because this is only going to affect the homepage right now. Autoplay is only happening on the homepage. So you still need to develop good thumbnails because everywhere else on the website, that will still be a very big first impression of your video. So you need to make sure that all the information that you want to get across in your thumbnail is easily decipherable by the viewer in 1 to 2 seconds. Now, I also want to talk about how this can potentially affect your views as a YouTube content creator. And to be quite honest, I'm not sure what kind of impact this will have on your view count. If I were to take a shot in the dark, I would guess that this will have almost zero impact on that view count. And the reason that I'm saying that is I'm assuming that this type of play will be counted the exact same as somebody actually clicking on your video and watching on the default play page. Now, I wasn't able to find any kind of disclosure directly from Google about what constitutes an actual play, but it does seem like the general consensus online is that somebody has to watch your video for 30 seconds before it counts as a play. So as long as somebody is watching your autoplay video with the captions on for 30 seconds, that will likely still be counted as a view, so we probably won't see much impact on views from this new feature rolling out. But next, I want to talk about how this can potentially affect your monetization, and I think this will likely be one of the bigger impacts. So they did not address this in the official announcement, which I will link in the show notes, But think about it this way. If somebody were to be scrolling through the YouTube homepage and a video begins auto-playing, and that video is not the content that the title says it's going to be, it is just a 5 to 30 second unskippable ad, chances are they will not watch that video. They will think, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I don't care enough to stick through this ad. So I don't think that YouTube is going to sacrifice that potential view by adding an unskippable, captioned, monetized advertisement at the beginning of an autoplay video. The other possible way that YouTube could monetize these homepage autoplay videos is by going a similar awful route as Facebook. What I mean there is they could go ahead and show you an unmonetized clip on the homepage that is autoplaying. Then as soon as you say, yeah, this seems interesting, you will click on the video to go watch it on the default player page and hear the sound. But before they actually start playing that video, you will get the advertisement. And if they go that route, I can guarantee you, people will say, screw this, I hate this, I do not like this, I am not going to watch videos on YouTube as much because I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to watch the content that I want without feeling like I'm being tricked into just watching as many ads as possible. So I think that they have to be very careful about how they roll forward with this new feature because it will significantly affect how people think about generating their thumbnails, how it will affect creators' views, and also, and most importantly probably, how it will affect these YouTube creators' monetization, their income stream from their job as YouTube creators. But I would love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. As a YouTube viewer, are you excited about this autoplay feature where they have everything captioned? And as a YouTube creator, are you scared about this potentially taking some of your views or taking some of your money? Next up, I just wanted to very briefly discuss YouTube Rewind, and the only thing that I really wanted to say here is that this thing seemed so incredibly out of touch. It started with Will Smith, the pinnacle of YouTuber. When somebody thinks YouTube, they automatically think Will Smith, my favorite vlogger of all time. I remember back in 2006 when I first discovered YouTube, Will Smith was on there from day one. That's what I've always thought of as YouTube. It was also focused on Fortnite. Very, very cool. But that's not the only thing. They also had the big YouTube star, Ninja. Big YouTube star. When I think of YouTube, I also think of Will Smith and Ninja. I don't think of Twitch when I think of Ninja. No. He's not a Twitch star. He's a YouTube star. You know who else is a big YouTube star? John Oliver and Trevor Noah. They aren't late night talk show hosts. They are YouTube stars. Very relatable. By God. I just think that this is a very indicative video of what YouTube wants to be perceived as. They don't want to be viewed as that independent content creator hub anymore. They don't want to be viewed as that kind of punk mentality, big middle finger to the mainstream content distribution platforms. They want to be part of that entire industry because frankly, that's where a lot of the money is. The late night talk shows, that's where the money is because that's what the general population wants to see. Ninja, he's huge, so let's include him. We want to be viewed as that cool place where gamers can make millions and millions of dollars. And we want to be viewed as that place for actors to come and be themselves. That's what I think that YouTube Rewind really showed us this year. And if you look at the like to dislike ratio, I think a lot of people will probably agree with me. But here, if you did watch the YouTube Rewind and you were able to make it all the way through it, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next up, we got a couple of Apple stories, and the first one is very short. It is that Apple Music is going to be coming to Android tablets. Now, Apple Music, I do believe, was available on Android smartphones, but now it's going to be coming to Android tablets, which, if I am not mistaken, is a very small number of users, but it will still be available. And the only reason that I am bringing this up is really because a week or two ago, I was talking about Apple focusing on growing their services revenue because I think we will start to see a decrease in hardware purchases from a lot of companies. And here we go, Apple rolling out their services to more platforms and not locking it down strictly to iOS. Maybe in the future, we'll see Apple do the same thing with their upcoming video content, although I think they do want to focus on people buying the hardware to get access to that. I don't know. I'm just guessing here. Anyways, let's jump to the next story, and it is that Apple has acquired Platoon, which is an artist management company. What does Platoon do? It helps creators produce and distribute their work and target audiences using analytics. Now, I've seen a couple of outlets speculating that this acquisition is going to be used for Apple to bolster the Up Next program, which is where they spotlight up-and-coming artists, but I don't think so. That's just a little boring to me. That's not innovative enough. That's not cool enough. Now, we are not going to the conspiracy corner, but we are definitely conspiracy corner adjacent. What I think is maybe Apple acquired this to essentially start somewhat of a record label, much like they've begun developing streaming series that are going to be launched and will be exclusive to their platform. Maybe Apple is going to attempt to do the same thing with music. I think that they're going to be using this to sign independent artists and make those artists exclusive to their platform upon initial release, which is something I believe we saw Apple try to do with maybe it was Taylor Swift, where they pay a bunch of money to get exclusive digital release rights for a little bit of time. And then after that time has elapsed, then it gets released to the entire market. That may be a very big focus of what Apple is trying to do to get more people to sign up for Apple Music. But maybe Apple does just want to start some kind of record label where on the front of all the album artwork, there's a little Apple logo. So people know, hey, this was made by Apple. And all the Apple sheep like me will say, hey, cool, this is an Apple artist. We should go ahead and support them. That would be interesting. Again, I don't know any of this to be true. I am just speculating, and we are on the verge of entering the conspiracy corner. So let's go to the next thing, which is one piece of security news, and it is that Australia hates privacy. So per the BBC, the Australian government passed a law that would force tech companies to hand over information, even if it's encrypted. That in and of itself is absolutely terrifying. But to be fair, apparently, the Australian government has already been able to request this, and companies have been required to hand over that information that is encrypted if the company does have decryption keys. But there are apps and companies that are zero knowledge, which means that they do not hold the encryption or decryption keys, and they have no access to their users' information if they were to intercept it. All they would get if they intercepted something being sent between two users on their platform would be a jumbled mess of encrypted data. But with this new legislation being passed, it would force companies to create a technical function that would give law enforcement access to encrypted messages without the user's knowledge. And the government did say that it wouldn't go ahead with this legislation if it created any kind of systemic weaknesses. You mean like installing a backdoor that could be exploited into all these end-to-end encrypted messaging apps? That kind of systemic weakness? So you're not going to go forward with it? Something tells me you're lying. You're going to continue to go forward with this and push for it. I think you're not going to give up on this. You really want access to this. Now, if companies do not comply with this new law, they do face being fined. But who knows who's actually going to be subject to following these laws? I saw Proton Mail tweet something saying that their users will not be impacted by this because they are a Swiss company and they are not subject to Australian law. Not 100% sure if that is true, because if you want to actually function in a company or in a country rather, I think you will be forced to follow their laws. What I mean there is I don't think any company can just start coming into the US and functioning here without following US laws. I am assuming it is the exact same for Australia. But that is actually it for the news. Now let's jump into what you had to say. And the first comment comes from Age of Boredom. He says, I'd love to play a tabletop role-playing game based on how I imagine Bandrew's life. Podcasting by day, but by night, eating pizza. I mean the gang fight against data leaks. The campaign will end in you battling into a sewer, which just happens to be the secret location of the Equifax HQ. In this evil and corrupt lair, you will discover the dreaded, demonic data boss. Age of Boredom, you are an absolute genius. I have no idea how it completely left my mind. It didn't even enter my mind. I don't know why I said it left my mind. It never entered. This could occur in the dreaded, the evil lair of Equifax HQ. What a brilliant, brilliant idea. How much would it cost to pay somebody to develop this role-playing game or develop some kind of actual video game where I fight these evil data brokers, this Equifax data boss with microphones? What can I do to make this happen? Microphone companies, sponsor me, give me money. I will fight them with your microphone. Please, let's make this happen. Brilliant, brilliant idea, Age of Boredom. Thank you very much. Next comment comes from John Jackson. And he says, you're using a shotgun microphone here, right? Wouldn't it make a little more sense to use a supercardioid small diaphragm mic instead? John, thank you very much for your comment, but not necessarily. Maybe it would be better to be using that microphone, but I am using a shotgun microphone on this podcast for a very specific reason. First and foremost, I am using it because I want to test out the microphone for an upcoming review of the Rode NTG3. Full disclosure, was sent to me by Rode, just so nobody says, FTC, he's lying, he's not saying he got it for free. Just disclosing it for the sake of remaining compliant with the FTC. So I am testing it for an upcoming review. By testing it on the podcast, this allows me to get a lot more real-world testing and processing and all of that, and put that under public scrutiny and share with people and get their feedback on what they think of this microphone. Is it too bass heavy? Does it sound too narrow? What are your thoughts on this microphone's audio quality? And some shotgun microphones do tend to work really well for voiceover work. The Sennheiser MKH416 is tremendously popular in voiceover work because it sounds great for that. So just because it's a shotgun microphone does not necessarily mean that it shouldn't be used for voiceover work. There are plenty of people that do use shotgun microphones for that application. Next comment comes from OpenMindian. He says, 3310, there's a notion of privately owned public space. Look into it. OpenMindian, I did go ahead and look this up, and it seems more like some kind of zoning policy or something that is tied to physical land. And according to my thorough research on Wikipedia, look out, I am an expert researcher, don't question me, it sounds like the city and the developers would come to some kind of an agreement where the developer can get a desirable location, and in return, the developer agrees to make a privately owned public space. But currently, there is not any kind of government involvement in the distribution of websites or social media platforms or applications or domain registration, and I definitely don't think that the government should get involved in this kind of stuff either. I guess what I'm trying to say here is that in order for a government entity to offer any kind of benefit to a social media website or an application or any kind of website really, first, they would have to remove some kind of functionality or distribution from that site or that entity. And I would not support that in the slightest. I think the government should leave the internet how it is, stay out of it, unless, of course, there is a website that is being used for nefarious things that are actually illegal, whether... I'm not going to go down that road. I don't know. I'm not going to go... No, I'm not going to do it. Let's move on. But I don't fully agree with your comparison there. But thank you very much for the comment. I was fully unaware of privately owned public spaces. Thank you, OpenMindian. And the last comment comes from Lyowen. He says, I have said for a while now that wireless earbuds/headphones on phones was more of a fad. I can see it for home use where you are near the case, but out on the go, the need to recharge is kind of a pain. I was not aware that there was a volume issue with them as well, but that would be the end for me. So Lyowen, I wanted to include your comment because I wanted to elaborate on what I've been saying the last couple of weeks about wireless earbuds and the wired earbuds that I have been using, which are the Shure SE535s. So when I was saying that I did not have to increase the volume of the IEMs as much as the Apple AirPods, I didn't mean that the Apple AirPods have a significantly lower output. The reason that I have to have the volume of the Apple AirPods significantly louder is because the AirPods create such a poor seal on your ear that it lets in a lot of external noise, meaning you have to increase the volume of what you're listening to overpower that ambient noise that's getting into your ears. IEMs, on the other hand, are created for stage use, so they use something that is very similar to an earplug, so it blocks out a tremendous amount of external noise, meaning you have to increase the volume a lot less to overpower any kind of ambient noise making it into your ear canal. So that is what I meant by the difference in volume. I don't have to drive IEMs as hard, not necessarily a volume difference in output, but the seal that it creates is much more beneficial for your hearing. Now let's jump to my favorite part of the podcast, the Ask Bandrew segment. All right, if you guys got any questions, go ahead and send them to askbandrew@gmail.com, and I may answer them on an upcoming episode of the podcast. First email comes from Ross. He says, "Hi, Bandrew. After you addressed my last question on your podcast and getting it out there to the Podcastage/Bandrew Says community, I was able to solve the issue on the Windows side of things. Shout out to Alex, by the way. You're awesome." First off, I just want to say that is amazing that by me posing a question to you folks who listen and watch the podcast, you helped this guy solve an issue that he was having on the Windows side of his audio, and he wasn't able to find the answer online. You guys are amazing. This is why I love the Podcastage and Bandrew Says community. You guys are incredible. But then he goes on, "I thought I'd come at you with another well-formulated question, kind of. Much like yourself, I'm a bit of an audio junkie, shall we say. I love looking at new ways to record and new equipment, which is one of the many reasons I love the Podcastage channel. It's nothing major, but I am looking to set up a compact and relatively small iPhone/iPad portable podcasting rig for 2 or more inputs, preferably XLR. I've looked at interfaces such as the Ceramonic Smart Rig, IK Multimedia iRig Pro Duo Portable Universal 2-channel mobile audio/MIDI interface for iOS, Android, and Mac PC. What a terrible name. Anyways, I was just wondering if you had any ideas or recommendations for something that could possibly be a better option or even a cheaper one. Sincerely, your well-formulated friend all the way from Scotland." Ross, thank you very much for the email. Very great question. And again, I wanted to send a huge thank you to the Podcastage and Bandrew Says community for being so helpful and sharing your knowledge. You guys are incredible. But as far as devices to record your podcast to iOS with, the iRig Pre-HD is something that I have used in the past. I actually used it a couple of months ago to record the podcast from the hotel room. I'll link the podcast episode somewhere on the video and in the show notes, and I was very, very pleased with it. I'm assuming that the Duo is going to be the exact same thing, just with more I/O. And with that being said, I do think that the Duo would be a very good, relatively budget option to have 2 inputs. But to share a more professional option with you, full disclosure, this was sent to me by the company. I recently got the MixerFace R4R from Centrance, which is a portable recorder and iOS interface or computer interface, which has 2 XLR ports on the back of it, XLR combo jacks, as well as a channel 3/4 line input. It ranges from 350 to 450, depending on whether or not you want the portable recorder feature built in. And this thing is really, really nice. I am really enjoying it so far. It's got really clean preamps. The headphone amp is insane. If you look at Centrance's website, they have done a lot of headphone amps and DACs that are very popular and high-end. So if that is similar to what they are using in the Mixer R4R, you're getting some high-quality stuff here. The thing that I really like about this is that it does have an internal battery, so you don't have to throw AA batteries or AAA batteries in there. You just charge this thing directly, and it is an excellent device so far. But other than those, I haven't used any really portable USB audio interfaces. I should note that I think if you get the camera adapter, almost any interface will work with an iPad. You may need to have DC power going to your interface if it requires a high enough voltage or power consumption. So you could potentially use almost any USB audio interface, maybe the Behringer UMC 404 HD, which has 4 XLR combo jacks for $100. I don't know if it has DC power or not, but that would be a good option. And it's $100, but it's not very portable. But regardless, thank you very much for the email. Appreciate you. Next email comes from Alan. He says, considering that Thanksgiving is right around the corner, Whoops. What components in your signal chain are you most thankful for and why? Could be your boom arm, cables, DAW, or even a plugin. Alan, thank you very much for the email. And if anybody listening or watching to this does not know who Alan is, he is the host of the SoundSpeeds YouTube channel, which provides amazing information if you're looking to get into film audio. Now, I know that Thanksgiving has already happened, but I'm still going to answer this because I love the question. The first thing that I am thankful for in my signal chain is the Universal Audio Arrow, which I am actually using right now. Otherwise, I would hold it up and show it to you guys. The reason I love it, it has saved me so much money, and it lets me play with some really cool analog gear emulations that I will never have the opportunity to play with in any other situations. I don't see a situation where I have access to an LA2A or an 1176 or a Neve channel strip. I don't see that happening. Or what am I actually using right now? It's the Manly Voxbox. That's like a $5,000 channel strip. I'm never going to have access to that. This device allows me access to that for very, very cheap, and I am loving it. So that's the thing that I am most thankful for in my channel strip, and I don't think I could go back to using a non-universal audio interface in my podcasting studio. Second, this is going to be an odd one, a phonic leveler. This is a piece of software that I purchased maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and it essentially just analyzes the audio clip that you put into it. It says, okay, we're going to level it to this amount of LUFS, which is loudness units full scale. I think that's what it stands for. And I level all of my podcasts to -15 LUFS. I know it's higher than the standard of -16, but I have found it to be more consistent to other podcasts at -15. I don't know why, but mine seem to be a little bit quieter than theirs, so I go to -15, and this is a lot more accurate than how I used to do it, which would just be eyeball it. I would open up Isotope Insight and say, okay, what are we hitting generally? We're around -15.5 LUFS, -14 LUFS, whatever, that's close enough. Here, I let the software run through it and level the audio for me, and I absolutely love it. Very thankful for that. Saves me a lot of time and makes it a lot easier. And the last thing that I am thankful for, big surprise, Bandrew's gonna say the SM7B. You're right, the SM7B. I'm not going to go into why. You all know I love the SM7B. It just sounds nice on my voice. But I do want to pass this question off to all of you. Even though Thanksgiving has already passed, let me know in the comments on YouTube down below, what piece of gear in your channel strip are you most thankful for? Is there something like a cable that has saved you from interference, that has been very reliable? Is there a shock mount that has saved some recording? Is there a plugin that has helped you fix a bunch of clipping or remove mouth noises? I'm still searching for that solution for I can't remember who it was last week who asked about mouth noises. Is there something that you use to save you from mouth noises? Let me know. I'm going to find out. And Alan, let me know in the comments, what is your favorite piece of gear, or what are you most thankful for in your channel strip? Great email. Last email comes from Alexander. I got Andrew on the brain. Hi, Bandrew. Really appreciate your microphone reviews. Also, great podcast. Really like your attention to security and conspiracy. My pleasure. It takes a big toll on my mental well-being, but I love it as well. Thank you very much for appreciating that. I have 2 questions about gear. Recently, I got the RE320 with 309A shock mount and discover that the way to mount mic into it leads to scratch the mic by holding screw. There is no rubber pads or something like that, just bare metal. Or is this something wrong with my shock mount? 2, I have the Rode PSA-1 and it's clicking during I move the mic. Also, this thing can't handle weight of the RE320 and 309A combination, so I decided to replace it by Blue Compass. Is it any better? P.S. Sorry for my English, I'm just a Russian dude. Not a problem, Alexander. I appreciate you emailing me, and to be honest with you, your English is better than a lot of native English speakers, so pat yourself on the back. You're doing a great job. I pulled out my 309A shock mount, and I did find the exact same thing as you. The screw has no rubber on it, so if you do screw it in very tight, it will scratch the paint depending on if you're rotating the microphone while it's locked into place. I did find the exact same thing, so it is just a flaw in the design of this shock mount, not a problem with your shock mount in particular. Then as far as the boom arm, I'm a little bit surprised to hear that the PSA-1 wasn't able to hold that combination for you. I think I have tried that and it did hold it for me. I don't know if maybe you did get a faulty PSA-1 considering you said it was also clicking while you're moving it. That does sound like maybe you got one that should not have passed the quality assurance checks. But the blue compass does seem to have a much stiffer positioning, so it will likely be able to hold heavy microphones and shock mounts a little bit better. But on that note, it will likely move with lighter microphones. So if you throw a light microphone on the blue compass, it may just slowly drift out of frame away from you. The PSA-1, similar kind of issue. If a microphone's not heavy enough, it will slowly drift away from you or actually move away a lot quicker. So I think you'll be fine with the blue compass, and I did find the exact same thing. And that is actually going to take us to the end of the show. If you are somebody who is still watching or listening, go ahead and leave a comment on YouTube saying, poppycock. Why that word? I don't know. First thing that came to my head. I want to know who is sticking with me all the way through to the bitter end, because my speaking ability goes as I get further into the podcast. I appreciate you sticking with me, and poppycock. If you got a creator friend who you think would benefit from this analysis, feel free to share it with them. Maybe they'll learn something, or maybe I will help them determine they need to adjust their content creation strategy or something. I'm rambling. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next week. Bye.
This has been a Geeks Rising production, your executive producer of Bandrew Scott. For more information, head over to www.geeksrising.com.